He's not breathing! Oh my God, he's not breathing!
The woman's scream echoed through the trees, slicing through the quiet of the Virunga sanctuary like a blade. A group of tourists stood frozen in horror, cameras still in their hands, their faces pale as the blood-soaked body of a man lay motionless. On the ground, next to him, standing upright and hulking, was a massive silverback mountain gorilla. His fists were clenched, his thick chest heaved with heavy breaths. His fur was dark with blood, and his eyes, those deep, almost human eyes, looked confused, almost mournful. That man, the one lying broken in the grass, was 42-year-old Jonas Keller, a world-renowned conservationist, a father figure to the orphaned beasts of the Congo, and the face of gorilla protection worldwide. The gorilla, still standing over him, was Bakari, a gentle giant Jonas had raised since infancy, a creature he'd once described on television as the closest thing I'll ever have to a son. But something had gone terribly, terribly wrong. Before we go further, if stories like this move you, disturb you, or make you question what we think we know about wild animals, take a second to hit subscribe to Animal Story. These are real lives, real emotions, and real consequences. Let's honor their truth. Now, to understand how a world-famous gorilla advocate ended up lifeless on the forest floor, we have to go back. Back to the beginning. It started with a cry in the night. 16 years ago, Jonas first arrived in the Democratic Republic of the Congo as a graduate researcher. Back then, he was a clean-shaven, soft-spoken man with a camera in one hand and a notebook in the other. He came to study gorillas. He stayed to save them. The night he met Bakari, the rain was falling hard. Poachers had raided a family group of gorillas near the edge of the forest. Rangers found a lone infant beside the body of his mother, barely breathing, his cries muffled by the storm. Jonas was the only foreigner at the station when they brought the baby in. He wrapped him in a blanket, fed him warm milk from a bottle, sat awake all night humming softly, like a mother gorilla might. He named him Bakari, which means hope in Swahili. And that's exactly what Bakari became, not just for Jonas, but for the entire community of conservationists. For years, Jonas documented their bond. Videos of him teaching Bakari hand signals, playing tag, even dozing off beside the growing silverback, racked up millions of views online. He went viral before. Going viral was a thing. News networks dubbed them the Gentle Giant and the Gorilla Whisperer. Tourists came from around the world hoping for a glimpse. Some caught footage of Bakari reaching out to touch Jonas's face like a child might. Others wept seeing the enormous animal rest its head in Jonas's lap. Jonas became a symbol of coexistence, proof. People said that love could tame the wild, but the forest has its own rules, and love, no matter how deep, doesn't always protect us from nature's call. By the time of his death, Jonas had spent more than a decade living in Virunga. He'd refused promotions, turned down university jobs, and had even rejected funding offers that would have pulled him away from the sanctuary. "This is my home," he told a reporter once. "And he," nodding to Bakari, "is my family." But no one could have predicted what Bakari would do that summer afternoon. And yet, when you look closely, when you retrace the final months of Jonas's life, there were signs, small ones, tense ones, warnings. But we'll get there. Because first, we need to understand who Jonas truly was, what drove him, what hurt him, and why he clung so tightly to a creature the rest of the world still feared. Stay with us. Because this story, it's not just about a gorilla attack. It's about love, denial, and the fine line between trust and tragedy. Jonas Keller didn't come to Congo to be a father. He came to forget. Back in 2007, Jonas was just another face, in a lab coat, one of the promising young wildlife ecologists from Zurich, Switzerland. But behind the accolades and field studies was a man hollowed out by grief. 2 years earlier, his wife Livia had died in a car crash on her way home from a prenatal appointment. The baby girl they had planned for, dreamed of, even named Isla, never got to breathe her first breath. Jonas disappeared after the funeral. Most assumed he went to work in Asia or Europe. But instead, he boarded a one-way flight to Central Africa. He told no one, not even his own family. The mountains of Congo became his refuge, his way of staying in motion. If he stopped moving, he feared he'd collapse. At first, he just assisted with local wildlife patrols. He carried equipment, took notes, observed guerrilla behavior at a distance. But one night changed everything. That rainy night, a ranger had found a young gorilla clinging to his dead mother who'd been shot by poachers for bushmeat. The baby was shaking, eyes wide, not yet old enough to walk properly. They brought him to the field station. Everyone else said to sedate him, tag him, and send him to the reserve center in Kinshasa. Jonas didn't listen. He stayed up all night holding the little gorilla in his arms. When the sun rose, the baby had stopped trembling. He had a name, Bakari. Hope. From that moment on, everything changed. Jonas built a small shelter next to the main compound, half cabin, half gorilla nursery. He installed swings made of recycled rope, laid down padded mats, and brought in fresh leaves every day. At first, rangers thought he was insane, but then they saw it. Bakari began to thrive. He learned how to grip, how to climb, how to follow hand gestures. He mimicked Jonas's laugh. He pouted when Jonas ignored him. He slept curled against Jonas's chest. It didn't take long before the locals began calling him the Ape Man, not as an insult, but as a strange term of endearment. Even park rangers, hardened from years of brutal conservation work, grew protective of Jonas and Bakari, but outside their little forest bubble, people took notice. Jonas's old colleague from Zurich, now a National Geographic videographer, flew in to document their story. The footage of Jonas teaching Bakari sign language, feeding him bananas one by one, and scratching behind his ears like a puppy, became a viral sensation. Soon after, Jonas was invited to speak at conferences, appear on talk shows, and even advise wildlife policy. But he declined nearly every offer. His only commitment was Bakari. To the outside world, it looked like a beautiful, almost magical bond. But for Jonas, it was something deeper, something aching and unspoken. Bakari filled a space in Jonas's heart that no human ever could. He once told a visiting journalist, "I don't see a gorilla when I look at him. I see someone who survived what I couldn't protect my family from." People who came to the sanctuary described the way Bakari would follow Jonas's every movement. He'd walk upright beside him, touch his hand gently, even sit cross-legged, like a child mimicking his parent. Jonas had taught him more than 30 signs: eat, wait, calm, love. And Bakari had taught Jonas how to smile again. But even with all the sweetness, some experts remained cautious. Gorillas, especially males, undergo massive hormonal changes as they mature. By the time Bakari turned 10, whispers began spreading among the staff. What if one day he turns? Jonas always waved them off. He's not just any gorilla. He's my son. And in his heart, he truly believed that. They lived like that, Jonas and Bakari, man and ape, father and child, for over a decade. They took long walks through the forest. They ate fruit under the same tree every morning. Jonas even built a shallow pool where Bakari could splash like a toddler on summer break. But beneath all of it, under the laughter and quiet rituals, something had started to shift. Bakari was growing. Taller, heavier, stronger. His shoulders widened. His chest became barrel-like. His eyes, once wide and curious, began to narrow. He grunted more, stared longer, moved slower, but Jonas refused to see it. Love can be blind like that, and the forest, though beautiful, never forgets what it made. It started with the stare. Jonas had just finished his usual morning routine. Banana slices, grooming brush, a bit of classical music playing low through a portable speaker. Bakari sat across from him, legs folded, arms resting on his knees like he was meditating. That was their thing, silent moments under the trees. But this time, when Jonas looked up, Bakari didn't blink. He just stared. Not curious, not playful, still, locked in, eyes heavy, like he was studying a stranger. "Hey, big guy," Jonas chuckled, tossing a banana slice toward him. "Don't go getting weird on me now." Bakari didn't move. It only got stranger from there. At night, Bakari began pacing in circles, wide, agitated loops around the edges of his enclosure. He slammed his fists into the walls. He knocked over his water barrel. He shredded the woven hammock Jonas had made for him years ago. One morning, a visiting researcher found a squirrel lying near the edge of the compound, its tiny body twisted, limp. Jonas refused to believe Bakari had anything to do with it. "He's just acting out. Hormonal shifts," he told the team. "He's frustrated. That's normal." But he didn't mention the deep scratch marks he found gouged into the wood beams, or the time Bakari grunted low and lunged, just for a second, when Jonas accidentally stepped into his blind spot. Others noticed, too. Dr. Marcy Ellman, a visiting primatologist from California, had seen this kind of transformation before, in sanctuaries from Uganda to Sumatra. "He's transitioning into a dominant silverback," she told Jonas one afternoon over coffee. "You're not his parent anymore. He's figuring out if you're a rival." Jonas's face had tightened at the word rival. "He's not wild," he said. "He's Bakari." Marcy leaned in. "Jonas, it doesn't matter how he was raised. He's a wild animal. And he's at that age where instincts take over. You need to start creating boundaries." Jonas didn't answer. He just looked toward the compound. Then came the event with the fence. 2. Volunteers had been checking the outer perimeter when they found a section torn loose. Heavy claw marks dug into the wire. A bent metal post. Bakari had broken out the night before. He hadn't gone far, just about 30 yards into the trees. But when they found him, he was agitated, chest-puffed, hooting low and loud. He didn't respond to commands. It took Jonas 20 minutes and a basket of mangoes to coax him back. When the rangers suggested installing an extra barrier, Jonas snapped. "He's not a prisoner," he said. "He's family." They backed off. No one wanted to push him too far. Jonas wasn't just a handler. He was the guy, the one who'd put this place on the map. He had fans, donors, a whole online following that saw him as a hero. But even heroes can miss what's right in front of them. The final warning came from someone Jonas trusted most, Pierre, his old Congolese ranger partner. Pierre had worked with gorillas since before Jonas even arrived. He knew their moods, their rhythms, their thresholds. One evening, after watching Bakari glare at a group of tourists from behind the vines, Pierre pulled Jonas aside. "He's becoming a bull," Pierre said. "You need to stop the solo visits. No more entering the enclosure alone. It's too risky." Jonas shook his head. "If I stop going in, he'll think I'm afraid. He'll feel abandoned." Pierre's voice was low, firm. "If you go in again, he might kill you. Not because he hates you, but because his body says he must." Jonas looked at his friend for a long moment, then simply said, I know him better than anyone. He would never. 2 weeks later, Jonas held a private viewing for donors. Just 10 people, major contributors, allowed inside the sanctuary for a guided experience. No fences, no gates, just a short wooden platform with a clear view of the enclosure. Jonas insisted on doing the demo solo. No barriers, he'd said. I want them to feel how real this connection is. Pierre said nothing, just walked away, shaking his head. Later that night, Jonas posted a photo on Instagram. He and Bakari, sitting back to back, staring out into the trees. The caption read, 17 years together. You've never let me down. But sometimes, the things we love most don't break our hearts out of betrayal. They break them by being exactly what they were always meant to be. It was a Saturday afternoon, warm, breezy, unusually quiet for the Virunga sanctuary. Most of the tourists had already passed through earlier in the week, and Jonas had insisted on giving the staff a lighter shift. He wanted time alone with Bakari. I need to ground him again, he said over breakfast. He's been restless. Maybe he just needs me, the way it used to be. Pierre didn't say anything. He just looked down at his coffee and gave the smallest shake of his head. Around 2:30 p.m., Jonas walked toward Bakari's enclosure, wearing the same khaki vest he always wore on public visits. He had a pouch of mango slices at his hip, a leather notebook in one hand, and his phone clipped to his chest to record, just in case he wanted to document something beautiful. The gate clanged behind him. Locked from the outside, he was alone. Bakari was sitting near the far tree, shoulders hunched, slowly chewing on a bamboo stalk. When he saw Jonas, he didn't move. Jonas smiled. Hey, big guy. Miss me? No answer. No sound. Jonas approached slowly, palms open. I brought your favorites. Still nothing. Bakari's body was different now. Broader, thicker. His silverback ridge gleamed in the sun. He looked like a statue of power, immense, immovable. Jonas reached the halfway point. He squatted down. That was when Bakari stood. Not like the lazy stretch of a sleepy gorilla. No. This was sudden, sharp, dominant. He beat his chest once, hard, and bared his teeth. Jonas froze. Bakari, he said softly, voice shaking. Easy, boy. It's just me. Bakari stepped forward, massive fists thudding into the dirt. A low rumble built in his throat, a warning growl. Jonas stood slowly and took a step back. It's okay, he whispered, holding his ground. We're okay. Then it happened. In less than 3 seconds, Bakari charged. Jonas didn't run. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe his mind couldn't accept what his body already knew, that this was real. The first blow came to his chest, an open-handed slam that sent Jonas flying backward like a rag doll. His back hit a log. The wind was knocked out of him. The next sound was the scream, a gut-wrenching animal cry that wasn't coming from Bakari. It was Jonas. No, Bakari, stop! Bakari didn't. He was on top of him in seconds, pounding, tearing, screaming. A ranger stationed nearby heard the commotion and radioed for backup. But there was no safe way to intervene. Tourists who had wandered too close to the outer fence watched in horror. One pulled out a phone and started live streaming, because that's what people do now. One moment of terror, shared with the world. Blood splattered across the grass. Jonas's vest was torn. His left arm bent the wrong way. His face unrecognizable. Staff rushed to tranquilize Bakari, but even then it took 3 full darts to bring him down. By the time they got to Jonas, it was too late. He was still breathing, barely, but unconscious, unmoving. The helicopter medic said he died en route to the hospital. He never woke up. The world found out within hours. The video, blurred, horrifying, circulated online before the sanctuary even made an official statement. Twitter exploded. So did TikTok, Reddit, every wildlife forum in existence. The man who had raised a gorilla like a son had been killed by him in broad daylight. No warnings. No chance to say goodbye, just silence. And the sound of a broken bond. The question wasn't just why it happened, it was how no one stopped it. How a man so smart, so deeply invested in the animal he loved, ignored every sign until it was too late. And the saddest part? Even as the tranquilizer took hold, as Bakari finally slumped into sleep, the last thing he did was look around, confused, almost lost, as if something inside him had snapped, as if he realized, too late, what he'd done. Jonas Keller was pronounced dead at 4:17 p.m. at the Virunga Field Hospital. Cause: blunt force trauma, massive internal bleeding, skull fracture. The team that tried to save him cried as they cleaned the blood off his hands. He still had one. Mango slice clenched in his fist. Word spread like wildfire. By nightfall, Mark Justice for Jonas was trending on social media. Animal activists, wildlife lovers, journalists, and complete strangers flooded every platform with grief, disbelief, and, very quickly, blame. Some posted photos of Jonas and Bakari from better days, sitting under trees, playing in the grass, Jonas laughing while Bakari reached for a butterfly. Captions read things like, "He gave his life to save the wild. The wild took it back. Others weren't so forgiving. This is what happens when you pretend wild animals are pets. That gorilla should have been put down the second it showed." Aggression. This wasn't a tragedy. It was negligence. The debate ignited quickly and ran deep. TV anchors quoted experts. Wildlife forums were flooded. Podcasts dissected every frame of the grainy live stream. People argued over whether Bakari should be euthanized, whether sanctuaries should even allow human contact with maturing great apes, and whether Jonas had grown arrogant in his love. The sanctuary released a statement 2 days later. "We mourn the loss of Jonas Keller, our colleague, our friend, and one of the most compassionate voices in wildlife conservation. Bakari has been safely relocated to an off-site, no-contact facility for long-term observation. No decision regarding his future has been made at this time." That wasn't enough for some. The government of the DRC began investigating weather safety. Protocols had been violated. Whispers of lawsuits surfaced. Donors began pulling support. Animal rights organizations divided. Some defended Bakari as a wild creature acting on instinct. Others called for new laws to regulate private human-ape relationships. At the heart of the chaos, one truth rang loud. Jonas Keller was gone. His memorial was held a week later at the edge of the sanctuary. Rangers and locals gathered beneath the canopy where Jonas used to lead tours. A simple wooden bench was placed under his favorite tree, with his old field journal sitting unopened beside a photograph of him and Bakari. Arms around each other. Smiling, Pierre spoke briefly, voice cracking midway. He believed in love, but the forest, it doesn't always love us back. Marcy Ellman, the American primatologist, helped establish a memorial fund in Jonas's name. Within 48 hours, it raised over $200,000. The money would go toward new non-contact rehabilitation programs for orphaned gorillas, ones that respected emotional bonds but never forgot biological boundaries. His parents flew in from Switzerland. His mother couldn't bring herself to speak. She just stood by the bench, one hand on the photo, whispering something only she and the forest heard. As for Bakari, he now lives in isolation at a secure wildlife research compound several hours from Virunga. He is monitored around the clock. No more hand signals, no more games, no more Jonas. Caretakers say he's restless, unengaged. He rarely eats full meals. He sometimes stares at the walls for hours. No one knows if he remembers, or if he understands, but the silence he lives in now is permanent. The tragedy sparked a cultural reckoning. Not just about wild animals, but about how far love can and should go in the name of empathy. Some say Jonas died because he refused to believe in fear. Others say he died because he refused to see the truth. But those closest to him say he died doing what he believed in. And in that belief, in that heartbreaking, hope that connection could conquer nature. He may have gone too far. 6 months after Jonas Keller's death, the sanctuary looked different, quieter, more cautious. The trail where he used to walk with Bakari every morning had been closed. His cabin, once filled with scribbled notes, fruit baskets, and worn out boots, had been turned into a small memorial exhibit. Visitors now passed a plaque at the entrance that read, "In memory of the man who believed love could bridge the wild." What Jonas left behind wasn't just a gorilla or a shattered community. It was a question no one could stop asking. Can you truly love something that was never meant to be tamed? The memorial fund created in his name had grown into something larger than anyone expected. It became the Jonas Project, a global initiative advocating for new laws around exotic animal care, specifically targeting primate-human bonding in semi-domestic environments. One of the first things the project did? Lobby for a bill in Switzerland and the DRC that would ban hands-on interaction with maturing great apes in sanctuaries. The bill passed. Quietly, respectfully, a nod to the man who gave his life trying to prove otherwise. But the team behind, the project didn't stop there. They built new training modules for wildlife caregivers, focusing on long-term behavior shifts in animals raised from infancy. They provided mental health resources for handlers, acknowledging the emotional toll of forming deep, human-like bonds with wild creatures. It wasn't just science anymore. It was psychology, ethics, trauma-informed care for both species. One of the most heartbreaking moments came during a tribute documentary released on the anniversary of Jonas's death. In the final minutes, an old, never-before-seen clip plays. The footage is grainy but clear. Jonas is sitting beside a younger Bakari, maybe 5 years old. They're under the mango tree. Jonas is laughing, scratching Bakari's head. The gorilla reaches up, signs something slowly. Jonas looks at the camera and translates. He just signed family. He thinks I'm family. He looks down, eyes soft, then adds, he's not wrong. That line stuck with people, because love was real between them. No one doubted that. What shook the world wasn't that a wild animal attacked a man. It was that a bond so deep could still end in tragedy. And yet maybe that's the lesson. Nature doesn't follow our rules. It doesn't bend to affection or loyalty or even time. It stays wild, even when it sleeps in your arms. Jonas Keller believed in something beautiful. He believed that connection could heal, that trauma could be overcome, that a gorilla raised on love would never lash out in fear. He was wrong. But was he also right? Because thousands of people around the world now understand the line between love and control, between care and delusion, between compassion and danger, not because someone told them, but because Jonas showed them, through his joy, his loss, and his silence. And now, the sanctuary tells visitors one thing before they meet any animal. You're not here to touch. You're here to witness, and in witnessing, to respect. So we ask you, the ones listening now, watching this story unfold, where do we draw the line between love and nature? Should we walk away, knowing some creatures are better left wild, or do we keep reaching, knowing the risk, because love, even when tragic, still matters? Let us know in the comments, because this isn't just Jonas's story anymore, it's all of ours. If you followed this story to the end, thank you for feeling it, for thinking about it, and for remembering that the most powerful bonds are sometimes the most fragile. Please consider subscribing to Animal Story for more real stories that challenge the way we think about animals, nature, and ourselves. And above all, never forget what the forest taught us that day. Some things were never meant to be caged.